Hi everyone, welcome to the Let's Get Printing podcast. I'm your host, Zach Dewhurst, the Business Development Manager at DecoNetwork. In all my time in the custom apparel industry, one decoration process has been a bigger game changer than anything else, and that's direct-to-film printing. When it comes to DTF printing, it's a digital printing process, which means a lot of the control and variables is going into the printer itself. It's not like screen printing where we're pulling a squeegee and we're doing more an analog decoration process. So when it comes to DTF printing, you may have seen that we print a little print bar on the side of it, a little CMYK and white bar. And that bar is used for a couple different reasons. One, to keep the ink flowing, and two, so we can monitor the quality of the print. Today, we're really excited to have Pat O'Donnell from PrintHawk and Davis Slagle from B Graphics to talk about that print bar and how we can monitor it and catch issues with our print quality before we do a large run and we end up having a lot of waste and having to do a lot of reprinting. So again, PrintHawk has a solution in which they mount a camera and use AI tools to be monitoring that print bar, and Pat and Davis are going to be able to share some really cool insight in how that technology works. But before we get started, we need to talk about our awesome sponsor, DecoNetwork, the all-in-one shop management software that includes both a front-end website solution, which features an online design tool, product filter tool, request a quote tool, everything you need to be running a custom apparel business and have those front-end tools for your customers. Secondly, you can provide sites to your clients, whether they want a fundraising site or an ordering portal, you can provide that to your clients. And then third, we have the order management system where all those orders flow into, where you can create quotes and orders from scratch and store all of your customer profiles, called Business Hub. DecoNetwork, the all-in-one shop management system that'll take your business to the next level. Schedule a demo today and you'll see for yourself why you need to be using DecoNetwork software. With that said, let's kick off today's episode.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Davis. How's it going?
Hey, Zach.
Good to see you.
Davis, I met you through the Shirt Lab tribe. Heard you speak at a couple different events. You're a rock star, in my opinion. And when somebody says, hey, this guy is using this technology, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, we should all look into it. So I'm real excited to have you and Pat here to talk about PrintHawk, which is essentially a tool for DTF shops to use. I know you were at the Printing United conference, Davis. I think you were too, Pat. And one thing I really took away there that it just really not had sank in is the importance of having a spectrophotometer in the shop. Constantly being color profiling the printer. I mean, if you change consumables also change in quality over time, and then the elements change throughout the year. There's a lot of variables that could change it, and all of that will really influence the quality of your product. But how do you monitor it? How do you keep an eye on the quality and know when, hey, we need to check this out? Because color profiling, shops aren't doing it every week. If you're smart, you're doing it probably at least once a quarter. So yeah, Pat, tell us a little bit about PrintHawk.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the chance to tell the story. So PrintHawk at the simplest level is eyes on your DTF printer or printers to make sure that as soon as a defect starts to be created on that printer. And we are a little camera that gets installed directly on your printer and then uses AI, or more specifically, deep learning computer vision, to analyze the prints that are coming off of your printer and identify any of the 7 most common print defects that you may experience. I think first and foremost is banding. That seems to be an issue that every print shop struggles with. But then things like color consistency, registration issues. These are all issues that our technology can pick up for you right at the print head, and then notify you. We have a little siren, a light, and then a little software platform that'll send you notifications to make sure you can take action as soon as possible to help to resolve some of those defects.
And Davis, I hear you're the guinea pig because this is very new technology. Pat, when did you start coming about PrintHawk?
Yeah, so this is really. I mean, we all know the pace of AI is just remarkable, and so we started experimenting with this probably 6 to 9 months ago, and met Davis shortly thereafter. We're both here in the Western Pennsylvania region, and we were looking for a really forward-thinking thought partner on some of this technology, and we're fortunate enough to have Davis right in our backyard. About what, Davis? Probably an hour away.
45, 50 minutes.
Yeah, from our office. And so, Davis, we probably came down to your shop 4 or 5 months ago now, and started with a rough prototype, and now rounding into more of a production ready product. And we come from a technology background at PrintHawk, and Shelfmark is our parent company. We spun out of Carnegie Mellon University, but we certainly aren't printers. And so we wanted to learn from printers, get into the shop as much as possible. We've started to learn, and I've been now in over a dozen different shops. But that's why it's so important for us to have relationships with folks like Davis that have just been, Davis has been instrumental in the design of what this system looks like.
I mean, firsthand, experience. Can't trump it. Whenever I help someone with DecoNetwork software, it's because I've used it for so long and I know what it's like to be in their shoes. Davis, again, you've got a fun, interesting background. One thing, I've watched, a couple different podcasts you've been on talking about, hey, I sold all my screen printing equipment. I went 100% DTF. And I love the confidence in how much you bought in, and you have stimulated several conversations in my shop to, damn it, do we just bail on this? And I'm like you. I know you still offer it, Davis. Just doesn't mean you do it in-house, and the skill set and everything involved. And it was kind of funny. One of the last Shirt Lab conversations, somebody was thinking about bringing DTF in-house, and it was kind of funny. All these screen printers were kind of like, no, you don't know how hard that's going to be and all that. And I was kind of getting frustrated because like, guys, if you want to compare DTF to screen printing and what it takes to master that process and the skill set required to keep it consistent, it's not in the same realm. I mean, oh my gosh, if you get the printer dialed in and set up by a technician, you're starting off really well. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't buy equipment for tens of thousands of dollars and just kind of throw it in the corner and hope that I got it set up correctly. So a lot of people initially you went that route. You're going to then go, you're going to have problems. Also, DTF, just like you're saying, Pat, we're in the infancy stages. You think AI is accelerated. DTF. Davis, we went from cold peel to a claiming to be an instant hot peel to, hey, it's easy to get instant hot peel film every time. But again, there's just, everything is changing so quickly and everything. And again, the consumables get better, but you gotta keep producing the same quality product. And, it's not just if the color accuracy. Your customer doesn't want to buy something, place a reorder a month later, and the colors looks totally different, even though you never played with any of the variables and so forth. So, Davis, just kind of give us a background again, your vision of DTF and kind of some of these misconceptions and how you started using PrintHawk in your shop to kind of elevate and just have that peace of mind that hey, you know what? We're pumping out perfection every day.
Absolutely. So, quick backstory, sold everything, imported a printer in mid 2020. While we were shut down during the pandemic, we sent money overseas and had it waiting to get on a boat. We've learned very hard of all the stuff you can find on the internet of how to print DTF nowadays. But it came full circle, and we struggled a ton with quality at the very beginning. So much so we would not sell it to the public. We had the printer for 8 months before we would sell a public print. There's a couple pieces in when you're dialing it in and you're setting it up and you're doing your maintenance, and when you're actually training people, that they need to pay attention to certain things to achieve a positive transfer at the end and a positive delivered product for the customer. And one of the things we noticed early on was you couldn't leave the machine. One person, one machine, two machines max, right? Because the technology was a little rudimentary. There was always issues. The print heads, the environment was changing. Right now, we're in the thick of it. We are in, we dropped from 70 degrees to 30 degrees in a week and a half. And you're seeing it in Columbus. We're seeing it in Pittsburgh. That changed the interior of my shop. We had to make adjustments to our printers.
Yep.
And if you're not, something's going to fail and it's going to cost you money. So what PrintHawk does is we have one person running 4 machines. And when that sees that there's a discrepancy or something missing, well, the bells go off. Okay, then that we stop everything, go give that printer its attention, check the humidity, check the temperature, check the filters, check the make sure all the ink's flowing through, the head's shooting how it should, right? Check every little thing that could be causing this issue that this AI vision camera is reading to make sure that we're hitting the colors, the lack of banding. And that's really where it ties together, is it's a computer set of eyes, so you don't have to have as many people running between all the printers.
And you are running, what, second generation printers, right?
Correct. Yeah. So 2-head mongooses from DTF Superstore. Nothing crazy, 3,200 print heads. And they don't have some of the stuff. I know you just did a recent video of the one that's temperature controlled and fully in the climate, right? This is none of that. And majority of the ones you're being sold still aren't that. No. So it's and we have a specific room that's built just for this, and we still battle it.
Well, and that's what I was getting at. With these new generation machines, there's only one that has all these super guts in it, and that's the Stealth from CobraFlex, and that's just its own animal. But your average printer, and what we're seeing with the next generation are more colors. More, and it is kind of funny to me with some of them marketing it and not actually color profiling the printers properly. So I don't know what more colors are really going to do for you, but Davis, it doesn't matter if you have a brand new 5th gen printer, 1st gen, you aren't going to control Pittsburgh's, environment. You're never going to be able to control Mother Nature. And again, a lot of things have gotten better that are more controllable. Again, the consumables are the number one to me. I mean, if you were printing 2-3 years ago, it was difficult. And if you ever change consumables, for those out there, you need to recolor profile a printer. And again, color profiling is the big thing I think a lot of shops have overlooked. And I think a lot of us are really now kind of fully grasping and it's like if you're a screen printer, you have, a tension meter in the shop. You need to measure your screen's tension. There are tools that you need. And with DTF, spectrophotometer, but then again, how can we automate things? How can we, monitor this quality? So, Pat, tell us a little bit more about, again, how this technology works. Do you first set a standard? Do you find a perfect print bar, and then we're trying to match that? How does the technology actually work?
Yeah, that's more or less how it works, right? Is the way we think about it is that it's not our job to tell you what a perfect print looks like. And so our job is just to match what your standard is. And so, our vision is able to collect a lot of data over time, and from that data calibrate to make sure that, what you're printing is what you want to be printing. And so, as we roll out our 1st generation and we're getting started, we have line of sight to kind of enhanced features. And one of those features is the ability to calibrate for yourself a level of sensitivity that you want to set on your printers for quality. And what I mean by that is that, different shops may have different standards, may have different best practices on what they consider to be a passable print and a not passable print. And the way we continue to think about this is, again, we're not the experts. We're simply enabling the experts to be able to do more. And so how do we make the tool robust enough to do that? I think, from all of the shops that we've been in, and Davis's is no exception, there's a couple of things that are consistent. One is that these shops really care about quality, and they're willing to invest the resources into delivering quality product. And today, many of those resources are manual, and they're laboring their time. And then two, these shops have more work than they know what to do with. And so all of a sudden, the cost of that time of your folks in the shop becomes even more valuable, because that's more business, more work that can be done. And so, we're really just an enabling tool to help shops like Davis's to deliver on both those things, high quality and be able to be as scalable as possible and do as much work as possible.
Davis, how many times of the day are you having that alarm go off?
So we have played with the adjustment settings, right? Like the what's the term you used, that the how sensitive it is. And we have our sensitivity set a little lower, right? Because being an older gen printer, it goes off a little more than the average, than some of the other shops you think. So we have our sensitivity set a little lower, but it can definitely, where we see it the most though are the morning, around lunchtime, when people disappear for a little bit and maybe it doesn't get a manual clean in it, and then towards the end of the day after it's been running for a while and just the wipers haven't been cleaned and maintenance hasn't been done, right? So we'll see it at those three main times of the day, a little heavier than others.
Okay. And do you have you been able to kind of like, I know it's been early testing and so forth, but have you been able to look at any data, Davis, of, hey, if we didn't catch this, we would have printed this much potentially, and it would have cost us this much, using technology. If somebody signs up for DecoNetwork, I tell them it should do three things: reduce mistakes, make you more efficient, and open up some doors to some new avenues that you hadn't explored before. So the technology, if it should be reducing mistakes, it should be saving you money. Do you have any quantification of that?
So no, but I guarantee you that's something Pat and I work on, so we can record that in the future, because we don't chart them because they're not actually mistakes yet. They're not marked as a messed up transfer. We track how many bad transfers, like say if powder or something wasn't on them, like we'll track what happens in the shop. But I don't have that number for you because, I that's more of a sales point for him than it is a non-mistake for me.
Yeah. Let's organize an experiment, guys. You need the same two machines running the exact same jobs for like 6 hours each, one of them without the sensitor, and you go through that, and then you look at all the film. And we can compare how much do we save, because, Davis, correct me wrong, you're not even selling transfers, right?
No, we just print our own transfers. We have 4 printers, and we have about a 17 heat press fleet in-house. So wow. It is a transfer and production shop.
Okay. I just need to grow the same pair and bail on the screen. Now, I mean, hey, I'm not going to put down screen printing, but again, like, honestly, you really are one of the main reasons why I've really considered it. I mean, that's how game-changing this technology is. And I knew DTF was going to be big when I first talked to some screen printers, and they were like, oh, I like this. Because when DTG first came about, they hated it. Screen printers hated it. But the way they went towards DTF, I was like, wow. But Davis, I find it really interesting because, again, most shops that I work with, not all, not all, but most shops, they like to sell transfers to some other local shops. And when you're selling transfers, you're actually putting even more added pressure on yourself to be consistent, I feel, because, you're kind of printing, you're rolling it up, sending it to them. With your staff, Davis, you actually are pressing them yourself. So you kind of have that second quality control step in there. Which again, just goes towards, like, it doesn't matter if you're printing for yourself or a transfer. Consistency is everything with the customer. I was at the Printing United Decorator Summit. I think you went this year, Davis. I
yes.
didn't. And one thing that we all came to the conclusion at that was really funny was just like, customers don't give a damn about the hand. They don't. They care about color accuracy more than anything else. They really do. They would rather see a perfect quality, perfect color print, and the hand is like the last thing. It's just like, hey, we all strive for a great price, service, and quality, but price is the third most important thing. If you race to the bottom, you're going to deal with the worst customers possible. So, and Davis, do you also, and I kind of spy on you, I know you recently got a UV DTF printer. You have that up and running yet?
Yes, we do have it. It is not running yet.
It's a bad.
Well, no, we haven't tried to set it up yet. We had a little hot streak, and it didn't seem feasible to have it fully in and functioning and be selling to the Christmas market. So it's been backburned a little bit just because the volume's been up and it hasn't been needed. It's going to operate the same way with the camera on it.
Yeah,
we're going to get the general settings and run that quality the same way. And there's some really unique print-on-demand functionality out of that UV printer. And there's more interesting things coming down the line with digital or direct to fabric, not necessarily direct to film, more like DTG, where this camera stuff is going to be it's going to be pretty interesting as well. So direct to substrate, I should say, where they're doing sublimation and things like that right now, or they're printing right on it. There's some very, very interesting things coming out in the market in the next 12 to 24 months that just blow me away.
Well, especially, again, when they start adding all these additional colors and so forth, because that's the big next thing with it. And Davis, back to UV. You and I talked about UV probably 6 months ago in Shirt Lab, and you liked it for everything but drinkware. And
mm-hmm.
I agree. Drinkware, you're playing with a little bit of fire, but the technology is getting close. But it takes a lot of variables to get right, such as, okay, here's a curveball for you, Pat. How about clear? Because that's going to be part of that UV. You're going to have that clear coat. And again, you don't put the right amount down and whatnot, you're going to have problems. Can we measure that?
Yeah, I would love to pull one of my machine learning engineers in and put him on the spot and make him answer that question. But no, in seriousness, I think those are the things that are going to be the challenges as we look at scaling technology like this. And computer vision is only going to get better. We haven't looked at clear glassware yet, but I can tell you it'll definitely bring a new set of challenges. I think just like it sounds like it is for printing, and for decorating. That's interesting, Davis. We'll put that on the list. We'll have to test that one together.
So that's a special kind.
We lost Davis.
Uh-oh.
Have to see if he comes back. So what I was saying, Pat, is when you print UV, you'll do the CMYK, then you'll put a clear coat over it. And if that clear coat isn't applied correctly, the whole transfer essentially is useless. Hey, Davis, you're back.
Sorry, I got kicked out.
Yeah, Davis. Davis. So again, I'm going to be interested because I've heard a lot of people buy UV printers and have a lot of battles. And again, color's only part of it. It's kind of, with UV, you have that final coating.
Varnish.
Clear coat. And again, if that clear coat's not on there correctly, all the other variables can be right. Just throw it out the window. And it's something a lot of the time you wouldn't know until you start peeling and try to apply. So when we can catch things early on, the better. And I assume with your DTF printers, I mean, you have them going roll to roll, and it's just, you want to catch something before you're 300 feet into it.
And that's really why the camera is aiming at the printer. It's only a few inches off. And that was, we were in early talks about where it was going to sit, and you can't really read anything till it puts ink out, and the closest place to put it is right behind the print head. So you waste a little bit,
right,
but you're not wasting hundreds of feet is the idea.
right behind it. So yeah, and now I'm really thinking. So you have the carriage moving back and forth. Is if I'm looking straight towards the printer, I mean, is it behind the head itself?
The shaker, right on the outside.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. We have about I would say 6 to 9 inches come off the print head before it hits our camera. But generally with, the speed at which the printers are moving, you're able to then catch a defect only, one, you're only ruining, one set of art before you have a chance to catch that defect. So yeah, and to Davis's point, we looked at a lot of different solutions. I know sometimes there can be defects coming out of the heater, and we looked at putting a camera all the way at the end of the machine. But once you do that, you're 10 feet down a roll. It's a little late in the game. And how much money did you just lose, or how much material did you just burn by ruining, however many prints to get to that point? So, and that's, I think at some point this will be technology that gets integrated into printers and becomes something that's really just integral to the way that, some of these printers are made.
And, So with PrintHawk, if somebody buys the technology, they're getting the physical, camera that they'll mount on over the machine, and then the software is behind it to then, alert the staff, hey, that's where we're going to calibrate. Hey, this is our perfect print bar, and set the deviations as far as what's acceptable. So is that right in a nutshell? Hardware and software that essentially.
Yeah, and so we call the software the command center. So picture, in a shop like Davis's, you're running multiple printers at once. He has a fabulous operator in his print room that we've gotten to know well. And, his operator is sitting right there next to the printers and not always, doesn't always have to be fully occupied. And so someone like that now may be able to go up to the front of the shop and, put together boxes, fill orders, and then have the command center sitting right there. And they get a notification as soon as there's an issue to be addressed, or as soon as you get to, the end of a job or whatever it may be. And so, our idea with that command center is that we can show you not just when you are experiencing defects on printers, but also temperature and humidity, so that we can alert you to when there are conditions that may result in defects and start to get predictive in that way, so that then we can identify for you potential issues before they happen, and do that, with as little of intervention on your part as possible.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes just a combination of factors, Davis, like you said, that the temperature rising, you print a lot during a hot day, and you could have AC in the room. It's still sometimes possible for that to get a little warmer, and just. I found, hey, if we get over 80 degrees in that room, we're printing a different type of color. So, Davis, what when you have an issue, I think you're doing what most shops are doing. They're first starting with the head cleaning, wiping the squeegee. What are the typical solutions that you apply after PrintHawk is raising a flag to you?
Sure. So the easiest thing is make sure that everything is the colors are coming out of the head correctly, and there's not bars or chunks of the color bar missing. Typically, one of the reasons that'll cause that. Another issue that will cause a smear or defects in the color bar is the area around the wiper blade and the capping station very clean? Is there anything hanging or transferring, which if there's something slight hanging off the edge of the printhead and it's smearing that bar, that means it's smearing your prints too. So that's usually step number 2 is the area clean. Filters, are all filters flowing? Is everything pulling down through correctly, right? White is a tricky one. That little white ball of death on the back of your printers that when it gets too gunked up and you can't, it just stops printing all white altogether. That's always a check. And really, it's a step-by-step approach where you do the easiest things first before you go get yourself covered in ink. But in the worst case scenario is a line of ink blue and you have ink all over your printer and your floor. But what it does is it picks up, say you do break a pink line or magenta line, right? If it's not printing, it's going to flag it and tell you much quicker than not being there and knowing that entire color bar is missing. So we found that one out the hard way.
It doesn't require to miss the whole color bar. I mean, we're taking 4 colors to create a large amount of colors. And it's a formula. So if we all of a sudden are outputting less ink than we're supposed to of cyan, and we're using some magenta to create a purple, well, if I'm not putting as much down blue as I should, I'm gonna throw it off. So hey, just because a color isn't there in the color bar doesn't mean that just because it's there doesn't mean it's perfect by any means. And that's what you guys are doing at PrintHawk. Davis, what variables are you changing when you print? Because that's something we change one variable in our shop, and that's the choke when we have to. That's only, hey, we got a crazy thin line. Are you actually changing the saturation or colors or anything with the artwork before you're printing it?
So we do a couple things. First is we have minimum line thicknesses. And once we implemented them and our designers stood by them, our prints become so much better.
Yeah.
Just like designing for screen print or for transfers, there are certain things that it does well and certain things it doesn't. And you have to know what those are. Halftones are a big thing to learn. Size of halftone, right? And all of those little things are more on the design aspect of it.
Yep.
Really what we do is we dial these printers in before, like, when we get a new one or when we're putting them all back in sync, right? And we have PMS colors that we're trying to match. We're using the spectrophotometer, right, to test the printed colors on white and dark garments. Printed and pressed colors, I should say, that finished goods versus the PMS, to make sure the colors are there and the consistency is there. So everything that is done in the artwork is set up. We have stock colors that the printer knows, that the RIP knows to recognize, that we know outputs at a certain thing, and we can hit it consistently because what we match this up to is 1,200 online stores. And these are a lot of team specific. And what you said is the color's the most important, right? Well, we make sure we're hitting red 186 and gold 123 and hitting it consistently by managing that. And we've had some issues where PNGs didn't print the same navy as a PDF. And that's when you work with your RIP software to say, okay, if you see this color blue, change it to this color blue. And that's just the hard part of figuring it all out. But the technology does it. You just have to know where to look.
It's getting better. So some of the headaches you've described, I haven't experienced as much. Now, you really run your printers probably, sounds like more than 9, but the printers have gotten better a little bit, that the filters and the pumps and so forth on some of the machines will have less problems over time. But I love what you said there, Davis, which is like dialing it in. Which again goes back to what you guys are doing at PrintHawk. It's you dial it in and you measure consistency. If you don't actually dial it in, you'll never be able to measure your consistency. What is there a certain color that's your nemesis, Davis, or one that you've had more problems with, and you keep a closer eye on?
So people have issues with reds and oranges, and then a light pink always seems to be a little bit of a problem. And anything in that real light blue on a CMYK printer, are some of the purples, light blues, they'll turn grayish at times. And you've really got to work on some combinations. And that's all pre-set up. That's okay. We finally got one that matched after 120 tries of printing light pinks. But once you have it, you have it. So it's the upfront work, and it's making sure that everything's mapped to that color. Now, what you were talking about, some of the 9 color stuff, really changes that, and you have to remap everything to that printer. But you now can hit a much wider spectrum of colors. but you also have to manage a much wider spectrum of colors. So it's a give and take. And in that case, you would have to manage more print bars. If there's light colors coming off of it, it's more things to watch, more heads to make sure that are operating. 2 heads versus 4 heads versus 8 heads versus 9 heads, right? Are we seeing 9-head machines now? Is that where we're up to?
You're seeing a lot of 6 heads. I've seen 15-head machines. Copaflex has a 15-head Venom.
So, like, think about that. If one of those aren't firing, how do you even know with the naked eye without having some type of camera tech on it watching? So,
well, and you're printing 4 feet at a time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what you're starting to see more with these 9 colors, again, to account for that color bar. Okay, now we're doing 32-inch, just coming out with some random numbers, but you're seeing some wider film. Again, it gets expensive with it. And also, Davis, when you're kind of talking about the color profiling and setting the standard, it's what it looks like on the finished good. Because especially the film, it'll look like one way on the film, and then you press it, it could look very different, and you got to account for that. So yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, guys. But color profiling in DTF, it's easily probably the number one overlooked thing that really, if you're gonna buy the equipment, you need to learn how to do this. This is the true skill of DTF, Davis, is dialing in the printer, because the skill to actually run it, in my opinion, like you were talking about halftone and all that. Well, that's the design. That's not the operator. It's not a terribly skilled requirement. Do you agree?
No, you just have to know what to look for when it makes mistakes off the human eye. And if you have a technology that's looking at it all the time, that takes that skill even a little lower, where you can run multiple of them. And that's where I see like the tech meeting the human aspect of it and being able to scale a print shop.
Yeah. And Pat, when are you really going to start pushing it? Are you still in alpha, beta? Are we live? Where are we at with PrintHawk?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think I'd call it beta right now. It's interesting that the demand for this technology has been so incredible that we really haven't marketed anything. We've gone to a couple of shows, met with a couple of forward-thinking printers, and we're to a point now where we have a pre-sale list that's stretching out several months. And so, for us, we're always looking for forward-thinking printers, people like Davis that want to try this, want to give feedback on it. With any technology, there's going to be lumps, there's going to be lessons to be learned as it rolls out. And I think that the partners that we've found thus far are the ones that know they're growing, know they want to improve their print shop operations, and want to take advantage of this technology or make sure it doesn't pass them by. So we'll probably do a more formal launch in the first half of next year. But frankly, we haven't thought too much about it, just because the demand, even just from word of mouth, some of these early conversations, has been so high that our team is working around the clock to catch up to it.
Well, one of my business professors at Ohio State said, see a need, fill a need. And that's essentially what you did. You just got to make sure that the need you're filling is everybody believes in it. It's been sometimes a struggle with the color profiling, but a lot of people out there don't realize there's a few Davises out there. They have fleets of printers. People are very much so DTF. And again, why did they go DTF? One of the big reasons why, Davis, I think, is because of the skilled required to operate the equipment. Since COVID, it's been a nightmare to find employees and then who want to work. Honestly, heat pressing is probably the most fun thing to do compared to cleaning screens. Let's put it in perspective. Some of that stuff is a lot more fun to do. So anytime you can automate, and Davis, one other thing you did was when you try to replace screen printing with DTF, and I know that's not what you're entirely doing, but if you've ever Pantone mixed a color and printed it on a shirt and give it to the customer, and now we're going to digitally print it, it's like, shit, how do we get that to match? because we can't just all of a sudden change their shade and so forth. So, yeah, again, the great thing about DTF, though, is the consumables have gotten better. The equipment has gotten a bit better. The information has gotten better. But there's also still a heck of a lot of misinformation out there. And nothing beats going to a show and seeing some things for yourself. Pat, do you have a price of what this technology is going to go for once it's been released? I mean, yeah, what are we looking at?
Yeah, just to give you an idea, these initial beta customers are paying about $400 per month per printer. And I think when we talk to printers, they get a little bit of sticker shock at first, but then as we have the conversation of how much film, how much time, how much of your team's time is being spent on chasing some of these defects, folks start to do the math and realize that actually $400 a month makes a lot of sense for their operations. And in the future, the beauty of this technology is that it's only going to get more scalable, more affordable. And so, we hope that as we get into more of a general release, we'll be able to bring down the price point a little bit. But like I said, that really hasn't come up just because the value's been there for the printers that we've worked with.
Common sense is common sense once you look at numbers. When you got to just look beyond that first initial number. Like I say with DecoNetwork, what is your time worth? You value your time at $50 an hour. Well, the software costs this much. Hey, if I save you this many hours a month with it, doesn't it make sense? Well, yeah. Well, you actually have to use it, though. Yep. That's the big thing. Davis, you're not paid $400 a month and not actually use it. And all your printers are 2 heads, right?
Correct.
Okay. With when we were saying like more heads, that means more speed, which means we need to catch things even faster. So guys, what haven't we discussed that you find related to just DTF or PrintHawk's technology again that makes it just that much more of a no-brainer?
One thing I think that is important in this, and you won't see it with people that are buying their first printer, but you'll see it with people that are buying printer 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through 20, that they know they can only get X amount of square feet an hour, and how can you maximize that square footage with the highest quality print? And as you start to look at, okay, I can only output this much out of this machine no matter what I do, and how do we make that perfect? That's where technology comes into play, is when you're really trying to capitalize on what you've done. Not that you're just, okay, I'm learning how to use this thing, right? That's not the ideal customer for a technology like PrintHawk, but it's somebody that has figured out some of the dialed-in processes and want to maximize what they have in their shop. That's really where this AI and the vision, camera vision really comes into play.
Yeah, and I think from my end, I mean, there are printers that, and to your point, Zach, on the explosiveness of DTF, we meet with printers that have 1 printer and they talk about how next year they're going to have 12. Or we talk to printers that have 12 printers and next year are going to have 24 and on up. And I think a consistent theme that we hear from these printers is that they want to hire great people. They want to grow their shops. But at the end of the day, they have constraints on how quickly they can grow. And so we've been fortunate to have a chance to partner with some of these growing printers and say, hey, you can grow your production, as Davis is saying, by 2x, by 4x, either with the number of machines you already have or by bringing on new machines. How do you do that as efficiently as possible? And so, when we talk to our customers, we talk about not just how do we make you more efficient and effective as you are today, but actually how do we make you grow more efficiently and do so with the team that you have that you trust and ultimately serve more happy customers, improve quality, and continue to build your business.
I mean, it makes sense. Now, Pat, when somebody buys the PrintHawk technology, does that have to physically be installed by one of your technicians, or is it, hey, you can send it to me in Columbus and I can learn how to mount it myself?
Yeah. So right now in beta, we call it white gloving. We are white gloving everything. So we will drive out to Columbus, meet you in your shop, put boots on the ground, and help implement this in a way that's most effective for you. In the future, and what the team's actively working on is making it so that exactly that. So it's just as easy for you to get one of these cameras in the mail, set it up, and be able to rock and roll really quickly. So, again, this is for this beta stage where we're looking for partners. These are people that want to chat with us, want to have boots on the ground in their shop, working directly with them on making things more efficiently. And then, again, for us, it's self-preservation just based on the demand. We need to make this so that we can drop it in the mail and make it just as effective for folks to get this in their shop as quickly as possible, and that's what we're working on.
Well, if people can do one thing, it's typically point a camera. That is like the one thing everybody can do.
Yep.
Well, thank you both so much for joining me to talk about this. Again, anything about DTF is extremely interesting, and the process itself is still so new. It's only getting better, and there's so many exciting things, but consistency at the end of the day. Hey, yeah, more colors on a printer. Who cares? Consistency, color profile. There's so many things to get right. And you got to put the horse before the carriage, and by catching, any potential issues before we, run through the job, obviously the better. Pat, where can our viewers go to learn more about PrintHawk?
Yeah. Shelfmark.com is this. Shelfmark is our company, SHELFMARK.com is where you can reach out to us to get in touch about this beta program, but also shoot me an email. I'm the CEO. I'd love to talk to decorators directly, and my email's Pat, P-A-T, at shelfmark.com. We are always looking to talk to forward-thinking decorators that want to get their hands on technology like this.
And Davis, for anybody out there, just Google Davis Slagle, and you'll find some really good other podcast conversations. Honestly, I watch all the ones you've done with Inktovo and them too, because DTF guys, you got to look at it as this is such a game changer in the industry. How do you set yourself apart? How do you get to be the best? And hey, using technology has never been a bad thing in my experience. I always use the analogy, hey, you can do accounting on the ledger manually with a hand, but QuickBooks exists for a reason. There's a reason we use it. It just makes life easier. So thank you so much again for joining us. Again, guys, learn more about PrintHawk at shelfmark.com. Right, Pat? And thanks again, Pat and Davis, for joining us.
Yeah, Scott. Thanks, Zach.